It was another hectic evening at Benny's Burgers, one of the busiest fast food chains in the city. People rushed in and out, the sound of sizzling patties and beeping fryers filling the air. At the front counter, 19-year-old Jake was doing his best to keep up with the flood of orders. He had been working at Benny's for almost a year, juggling night shifts while attending college during the day. His paycheck wasn't much, but it helped pay for tuition, and on good days, it even covered a few small surprises for his little sister. Tonight, though, was different. The line stretched to the door, and the customers were getting restless. Jake glanced at the clock. Only 2 hours left on his shift. Just as he was about to take the next order, an elderly man shuffled forward, his hands trembling slightly as he pulled a few crumpled bills from his pocket. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed, and the look in his eyes carried something deeper than exhaustion. Excuse me, son, the man said hesitantly. Could I get the small cheeseburger meal? He looked at the menu like he was doing mental calculations. Jake entered the order. That'll be $6.85, sir. The old man nodded, unfolding the bills in his hand. He counted them carefully, then paused. He was short by just $1. For a moment, he stared at the register screen, his lips pressing into a thin line. His fingers twitched over his remaining coins, and his face darkened with quiet embarrassment. Jake's heart tightened. He had seen people struggle before, but something about this man, the hesitancy, the quiet way he tried to figure it out without making a fuss, made it impossible to ignore. Behind him, a customer in a crisp business suit sighed loudly. "Come on. Some of us have places to be." The old man flinched, his shoulders shrinking. He gave a small, apologetic smile and shook his head. I think I'll just take the small fries instead." Jake didn't even think before he acted. "It's on me," he said, punching a discount into the register. The old man's eyes flicked up, startled. "Oh no, I couldn't." "It's fine, sir." Jake cut in with a reassuring smile. "Happens all the time. Enjoy your meal." The man hesitated, then nodded, his expression filled with quiet gratitude. "Thank you, son," he murmured before moving to the side. Jake barely had time to register the small warmth in his chest before his manager, Tom, stepped in. "What do you think you're doing?" Tom's voice was low but sharp. His arms were crossed over his chest, eyes narrowing behind his thick-rimmed glasses. Jake stiffened. He was short $1. "I just covered it." "That's not your call to make," Tom snapped. "If we gave away food every time someone was short, this place would shut down." "It was just $1, Jake argued, lowering his voice. The guy looked like he really needed it. "I don't care how he looked," Tom hissed. "Rules are rules. Next time, it comes out of your paycheck." Jake clenched his jaw, swallowing the frustration rising in his chest. The man had barely walked away with a meal, and here Tom was acting like he had committed some grand crime. But before he could say anything else, a deep voice interrupted. "Excuse me." Jake turned to see the man in the business suit from earlier, arms crossed, lips pressed in a tight frown. "Oh, here we go." The man took a step forward, pointing toward the old man, who was now seated in the corner, carefully unwrapping his burger. "Why did he get free food?" Jake hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "He was short $1, sir. I just helped him out." The businessman's eyes narrowed. "So, if I say I'm short $1, do I get free food too?" The question sent an uncomfortable silence through the counter. A few customers turned their heads, watching the scene unfold. Jake opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, Tom cut in. "Exactly," Tom said smugly, crossing his arms. "That's why we don't do handouts here." The businessman hummed, considering the answer. Then he reached into his wallet and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. "Here," he said, holding it out. "Use this to cover anyone who's short on their meal tonight." Jake's mouth dropped open. Even Tom was stunned. The businessman glanced back at the old man and then at Jake. His expression softened just a little. "You did the right thing, kid," he said before walking away with his order. Jake took the bill, still shocked. The customers in line started whispering, and before long, another man in a flannel jacket stepped forward, tossing a 20 onto the counter. "Make that 2, he said simply. Then another, and another. Within minutes, a small pile of cash sat beside the register, all from customers who had witnessed what happened. Jake couldn't believe it, and neither could Tom, whose face had gone completely pale. But just as Jake was about to say something, a voice crackled through his earpiece. "Jake, boss wants to see you in the office." Now, his stomach flipped. He glanced at Tom, who smirked. "Looks like you've got some explaining to do." Jake swallowed hard and turned toward the back of the store, his heart pounding in his chest. Jake took a deep breath as he walked toward the manager's office. His hands felt clammy, his mind racing with possibilities. Was he about to get fired? Written up? His heart pounded against his ribs. When he stepped inside, he was surprised to find not just Tom, but also someone else. Sitting in the chair opposite the desk was Mr. Bennett, the owner of Benny's Burgers. Jake froze. He had never seen the man in person before. He only knew him from the framed photo near the entrance, the one with the bold caption, "Our founder, committed to quality and community since 1998. Mr. Bennett looked older than in the picture, his silver hair neatly combed back. But his eyes were sharp, taking Jake in with an unreadable expression. Tom stood stiffly beside him, looking a little too smug. "This is the employee I was telling you about," Tom said, arms crossed. "Giving away food, ignoring company policies." Jake clenched his fist but held his tongue. Mr. Bennett exhaled slowly and folded his hands together. "Jake, why don't you tell me what happened?" Jake hesitated, then stood a little straighter. If he was going to lose his job, he might as well be honest. "There was an elderly customer," he said. "He was short on money. He looked embarrassed, like he didn't want to ask for help. So I covered the difference myself. He paused. "I just didn't want him to go hungry." Tom scoffed. "That's not how a business runs, sir. If we let employees make decisions based on feelings, we'd be giving away food all the time." Mr. Bennett was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to Tom. "Tell me something," he said, his voice calm. "How much do you think we made in profit today?" Tom blinked. "Well, I don't have the exact numbers, but—" "I do," Mr. Bennett cut in. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and then set it on the desk. "Over $18,000 in one day. And you're upset over a $1 burger?" Tom's face twitched. "Sir, it's about the principle." "No!" Mr. Bennett interrupted again. "It's about people." Jake's breath caught in his throat. Mr. Bennett leaned forward. "Do you know why I started Benny's Burgers, Tom?" Tom hesitated. "For good food?" Mr. Bennett gave a small chuckle, shaking his head. "No. I started it because when I was 10 years old, my family was struggling. We didn't always have money for food. There was a small diner in town, and the owner, he used to let us eat even when we were short. My mother always promised we'd pay him back, but he never kept track. He just smiled and told us, 'Take care of yourselves.'" Jake felt a lump rise in his throat. "I built this company with that same idea in mind," Mr. Bennett continued. "Good food, fair prices, and a heart for the community." Tom's smug expression was gone. "Jake," Mr. Bennett said, turning back to him, "I watched everything today. I saw how you treated that customer, and how you handled the man who challenged you about it." He leaned back in his chair, nodding slightly. "You showed compassion and integrity. That's exactly the kind of person I want working here." Jake felt his pulse skip. Was he actually? "I'm promoting you," Mr. Bennett said, smiling. Jake's jaw dropped. Tom's head snapped up. "What? You're now the shift supervisor," Mr. Bennett continued, with a raise. "And I want you to help train new hires, to make sure they understand that kindness isn't a weakness, it's a strength." Jake couldn't believe it. Tom, on the other hand, was fuming. Sir, this is ridiculous. I've worked here for years, and you're promoting him for, what, giving away food? Mr. Bennett's smile faded. No, Tom. I'm promoting him because he understands what this company is really about. Tom opened his mouth to argue, but then Mr. Bennett's expression hardened. And as for you, he added, I think it's time we had a serious conversation about management priorities. Tom paled. Jake bit his lip, trying not to smirk. Mr. Bennett stood, signaling that the meeting was over. He patted Jake on the shoulder. Good work today, son. Keep it up. Jake barely got out a thank you before stepping out of the office. When he returned to the counter, his co-workers were waiting. What happened? One of them whispered. Jake let out a stunned breath, then grinned. I just got promoted. The entire kitchen erupted in cheers. And when Jake looked over to the corner booth, the elderly man was still sitting there, enjoying his burger. Jake smiled. Maybe, just maybe, he had done something right. Imagine standing in Jake's shoes. Would you have helped the old man, even if it meant breaking the rules? Or would you have followed orders? It's easy to say we do the right thing, but when the pressure is on, what would your gut tell you? Let me know in the comments. And if you love stories about real-life kindness, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more incredible moments like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.